Hey everyone, Manny here from No Such Thing. We are so excited to share that No Such Thing was named one of Apple Podcast's best shows of 2025. If you've already been listening, thank you so much for being a part of the No Such Thing community, and definitely keep emailing us. We love chatting with you all. If you're new to No Such Thing, do yourself a favor and go through our catalog because none of it is outdated. Each episode is a banger, so be sure to go check that out. After that, make sure you check out the full Best of 2025 collection in the Apple Podcasts app. And finally, enjoy this week's episode. I'm Manny.
I'm Noah.
This is Devin.
And this is No Such Thing, the show where we settle our dumb arguments and yours by actually doing the research. On today's episode, we're going to find out how easy it is to get away with murder. I'm going to talk to a criminologist, and then I'm going to have Devin and Noah present their plans to kill each other to a former detective.
So that's my plan. What are your initial reactions there?
Well, first of all, it's messed up, but
Yeah.
There's no such thing. No such thing. No such thing. No such thing. No such thing.
All right, fellas, I was watching some stand-up recently, and I came across something that has to do with this episode, so I want to play this clip for you.
On Cold Case Files, they solve old murders, and it's really interesting because what I learned from it is that it was really easy to get away with murder before they knew about DNA. It was ridiculously easy. Like, what was even going on back then? What was a murder investigation like in 1935? One cop would just walk in and be like, "Detective, we found a pool of the killer's blood in that hallway." And he would just be like, gross. Mop it up.
So I think part of what makes this funny is that it has to be true, right? Like back then, before the advent of forensic or scientific investigation, these crime scenes were littered with so much information telling you who exactly the killer was, but they just could do nothing about it. Obviously, it's been a very long time since the setting of John Mulaney's joke, but it made me think about the current state of criminology, like what the current status of that field is. And I did a tiny bit of research. According to a report from the New York Times, and despite all of the technological advancements we've made since the 30s or whatever, nearly half of all murders go unsolved.
Half?
Yeah, I want to get your guys' reaction to this number.
That's one of two.
That's pretty good odds.
Basically, if you commit a murder, I don't think statistics works exactly like this, but if you commit a murder, you have about a 50% chance of getting away with it.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah, and that's the United States.
That's in America, yes.
Especially considering how many people we have goddamn in prisons. You know, not enough murderers, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's change the quotas a little.
And what surprises me, too, is that we know that the homicide rate in the past 30 years or whatever has gone down.
You think it would make it easier to solve murders because there's less of them happening.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's less stuff for them to do, so you think it'd be more focused.
Yeah.
You know, used to have 100, now we got 10.
But yeah, and I mean, I wonder what the type of murders that do happen are. Like, in our head, and what we're going to discuss later is more of these premeditated schemes versus, like, I imagine most murders are more just like, we're fighting,
spur of the moment.
I'm going to shoot you or something.
Yeah.
Or a robbery,
some
domestic thing, or just like more either crimes of passion or just like, you know, something more immediate.
That's what
which seems way easier to solve than like, you know, some mastermind.
Before reading this stat, I would have thought that the vast majority of murders would have one clear suspect and that it would be easy to solve this.
Yeah.
I thought like the reason we don't really have serial killers today is because of these kind of technological advancements in forensics studies where, if you kill like 10 people, it's way easier to figure out who you are than it was in the 70s or whatever. But I'm surprised to hear that that's not really been the case for your regular run-of-the-mill murders.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, I was reading about the BTK killer kind of recently, you know, brushing up. And it's like amazing. It's like this guy's killing a lot of people, taking photographs, all this stuff. Then he has like his normal family life. And he basically got caught because he was like essentially taunting the police by
Yeah.
sending them letters. And then like, I think he got caught because he sent a flop. He like asked the FBI or someone like, would you guys be able to trace me if I sent you a floppy disk? And they were like, no. And then he sent a floppy disk and it had like his login for like it was like from his church computer or something. And it's like, if you just shut up, no one would have found you. Like maybe after you died, they would have discovered something, but
Yeah.
like you would have been fine. So he really could. I think he blew it. To be frank,
He was generational and just a bust.
yeah.
Well, I want to ask you guys two questions. The first one has to do with this stat that nearly half of murders go unsolved. Just curious, like what your guys' take on why this might be. Without having done any research, we're gonna talk to someone who knows why, but I want to get your thoughts.
My initial reaction is the people who are murdered and their murders aren't solved are poor people.
Yeah.
Not enough importance on the case itself.
Yeah.
The cops don't care, and resources really aren't put towards finding, because it's like, hey, you know, it's poor people killing poor people. It doesn't affect us. That's their own thing. If something happens within that community, whatever.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's not as important. And then I think the community has a distrust for the police in those communities because of their lack of actually helping. So I think people are less willing to work with the police in those communities.
That's a good hypothesis because I do remember a couple years ago the kind of national news about Gabby Petito. Do you remember this?
Yes.
So she was kind of kidnapped, taken across the country by her boyfriend, eventually murdered, and it just ended up being this like kind of national news that a lot of people responded to this by saying, well, you know, there are a bunch of kind of poor or black or brown victims where the exact same thing is happening, but it doesn't get treated the same way. So I could imagine if that's true, that might also be true within the police departments where they just have like a certain level of apathy, I guess.
To Devin's point, it's like there is like that Long Island beach killer, and he's killing like sex workers. So it's like these are people who probably maybe don't even have a family. No one's looking for them if they are gone. And then he seems like kind of a weirdo loner guy. like so
No one's
those
checking
things
in on
match. It's
him.
like, if the victim's not high profile or
Yeah.
becomes one, then no one's looking. And then it's kind of like, well, why are we going to spend all of our time on this when there's other things going on or what have you? So, and then that's even in New York. It's like, imagine more rural areas and poorer areas. It's like, it's only going to
Where there's like
be
two
stronger.
cops in the town.
Right.
Yeah, so
yeah.
you could easily see someone goes missing and it's just not that much pressure if there's not this kind of groundswell of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've got another question for you guys. When I read this stat, I don't want to say I'm like built different or anything. Oh, God. But I just felt like, okay, most people committing a murder are probably driven by something specific. They know the person, there's some kind of animosity. But I wonder, like, if, you know, the three of us are relatively smart, do you think you could get away with murder if you really put your mind to it? If you sat down and concocted a plan that you felt like would elude police, or do you feel like it's 2025, they've got cameras everywhere, they've got the craziest technology you can imagine, you're not getting away with it?
No.
You don't think you'd get away with it?
I mean, we'll see what the cop says later, but
But in terms of why not? In terms of
I just
don't
think I don't have confidence in my ability to clean up after myself.
Okay.
Like there would just be some way to trace me. Like I wouldn't be able to go deep enough, I don't think, into like being so careful about covering my steps, both before and after. And as soon as if I was interrogated as a suspect,
You'd fold.
even if I wasn't a suspect, but if they were just talking to me, like, oh, you know this person, right? Like, I think I would just give sign. I don't think I'd immediately confess, but I think I'd give enough signs that they'd be like, let's talk to this guy for maybe 10 more hours.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
maybe
done.
it was me,
Like,
actually.
I think it would.
You would give in?
That's
I think.
really
Well, I think it
funny.
would close. It would very quickly occur to me like I'll probably just be better off if I'm good and maybe I can get out and see the sunlight one day.
What about you, Devin? How do you feel?
See, my thought on this is I do think I could get away with it, but that's also the same reason I think I could get away with it is the same reason why I wouldn't commit a murder. You know, I feel like I'm in my,
I can't wait to hear this.
you know, I feel like we talk about this all the time. Anytime there's a big
Yeah.
murder case
Yeah.
and someone gets caught and you're like, why the hell did you
Yeah.
do that? Or what the hell is that happening? And I think we forget these people are not in the right state of mind, right?
Yeah.
Like this person,
Yeah.
they've decided to murder someone else. So
Yeah,
it's not
they're-
like they're thinking, in some ways they're thinking really logically and you're like, wow, you really planned this
Yeah.
part out. And then they do something really dumb and you're like, why do you still have the gun? Like why would you go and sit down and eat at a McDonald's
Well,
when you're
yeah.
on the, like things like that. So I
Yeah.
feel like planning wise, I think I would be able to think through a lot of stuff, right? But I think me as a person, I think I would fall apart emotionally having killed a person.
You would be able to live with the guilt.
It would be tough to kill a person. You know,
I think so.
I think it would be like I've never been in a fight.
Don't have that dog in you. Yeah.
To go from never being in like a true fist fight to
You'd have
killing
to-
a person is
Yeah.
quite an escalation.
But that's why you'd be good because no one would suspect you. Devin? Whoa.
Yeah,
He snapped.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna put these hypotheses to the test. We're gonna talk to a former detective, and I'm gonna have the two of you concoct a plan to kill each other. We're gonna present these plans to a former detective just so that he could poke holes in them, figure out where you went wrong, or maybe he'll hear your plan and be like, "Actually, that would be really difficult for me to
You're going
find."
to end up on
you."
a watch list. He's going to be like,
Yeah,
keep an
and
eye
then
on
we
this.
will not be allowed to leave the studio. But before we get to the former detective, I think it's worth talking to a criminologist about this stat that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode about how half of murders go unsolved. What really could be leading to the decrease of murder clearance rates, especially because homicide rates have been on the fall for a long time now, despite what you hear on Fox News. But that's after the break. Okay, we're back. I'm Manny.
I'm Noah.
Devin.
And we were just discussing the stat where 50% or nearly 50% of murder cases go unsolved. It's time now to talk to a criminologist who might have some insights for us. When I was looking for a criminologist, I wanted to pick someone who's been doing this for decades, like a really long time. So he'd be able to really pinpoint the kind of movements in this field, the developments. And you guys might like to hear this. He is a professor at the American University.
Ooh,
Fellow Eagle.
Where the two of you graduated college.
what's our saying?
Once an eagle, always an eagle.
Once an eagle, always an eagle.
That's beautiful.
We always say that.
Yes, we always. That's why I had to ask him.
Yeah. That was just a little test.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
You know what we say.
so here's Dr. Brian Forst from Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Brian Forst. I'm a professor emeritus of justice law and criminology at American University in the School of Public Affairs, and I'm happy to be here.
We're just going to skip straight to the main question. Why are there so many unsolved murders in the U.S. today, despite the fact that the murder rate has crashed since the 1990s? Dr. Forst said it has a lot to do with what he calls community policing.
What happened to community policing? Whatever happened to community policing? The tragedy of the last 20 years or so has been that policing has descended from the model that was created in 1829 by Sir Robert Peel, who was the creator of the London Metropolitan Police Service, which was a revolutionary way. It moved from the night watchman to creating police officers as professionals. They were trained to be members of the public. The police are the public and the public are the police, according to Robert Peel. And so the idea was that the police didn't come into a community as alien stormtroopers. They came in as servants, as members of the community who were respectful of the members of the community, even if those members were not always in good standing. And it was a model that was at the heart of community policing movement in America in the 1980s and 90s. And during that period, our crime rate went down, homicide rates went way down, the clearance rates went up. We were trending in the right direction. So the police really are at the heart of the problem and the heart of the solution. And we were moving in the right direction from 1990 to about the 20 teens. And then all hell broke loose.
The growing outrage over the shooting death of Trayvon Martin.
But the shooting of 18-year-old Michael Brown has opened a wound in the community.
Shocking dash cam video has been released of the fatal police shooting of Philando Castile.
Protesters calling for justice for Breonna Taylor. Peaceful demonstrations over the death of George Floyd yesterday turned into violence.
The policing went south, and it's a real shame. And the question is, can we find ways of returning to the noble, decent ethic of community policing, where the police see themselves as members and servants of the community rather than as better than or entitled to use brutal force willy-nilly, as they are currently being encouraged from the highest levels.
What is it exactly about the departure from community policing that affects the rate at which murders are solved?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really comes down to a matter of trust between the citizenry and the police. And what community policing does is build trust. And when the police have good contacts within the community, the clergy, school superintendents and principals and teachers, political ward chiefs, they can have better access to the community. And when they are encouraged to despise the very idea of community, as we saw with Sarah Palin a few years ago,
I guess a small town mayor is sort of like a community organizer, except that you have actual responsibilities.
Police, unfortunately, bought into more of Sarah Palin's ideas and less of Robert Peel's ideas of policing as community service. There's a vicious cycle here. When homicide rates go up, police resources get overloaded and their ability to solve crimes declines, which only emboldens the offenders. So they see that it's easier to get away with crimes, and so they commit more, which only creates more homicides, more overload of scarce resources. And so it really is a vicious circle. And like I say, we have to find ways of breaking it. And right now, I don't see any on the horizon.
So I think the basic idea here is that if I were thinking about committing a crime, for example, and there were good community policing, I would either be less likely to do it because I have been in contact with these people, I know who they are, or if I did commit the crime, it would be a lot easier to pin me as the suspect because of their relationships with the community. And you might be like, "Hey, man, he's in a bad way. Like, point me to where he is, or whatever," and they'll come find me. Whereas today, there's such a distrust in policing that you'd be shocked to hear of like regular citizens in some cities in the U.S. like helping the police do something.
I think people are a bit skeptical of community policing nowadays just because like the way that the system is set up, it does not encourage the ideal version of it. But I can see in a world in which your only interactions with police are not you getting in trouble with them. If they understand the dynamics of the neighborhood, say me and Noah hate each other. If Noah is suddenly
Not hard to imagine.
dead one day, they may know, I know Kevin and Noah were beefing.
Just because they're familiar.
Yeah, we may need to talk with him.
Or they would at least have good enough relationships with people around you or in the community who might be able to tell them that.
But who was the last person you got in an argument with?
Yes.
That's sort of thing. So you're not starting from zero where, this is a lot of the criticism of the New York Police Department in the city is that, New York City Police Department, is that a lot of the police officers live on Long Island. So they don't live.
They're just kind of secluded
in the city.
In the areas.
They're working in areas that they don't visit outside
totally
of work and they don't live. So they don't have the familiarity with the community. They're just like driving in, putting on a uniform, standing in a corner playing Candy Crush. And then getting calls to, arrest people or confront people. They're not like walking around and be like, "Hey, Miss Susan."
Right. Yeah.
And then there's stories, and it's not just like in cities. It's like people call, I think there was one last week where, people call the police for some other reason, then they end up getting shot or arrested or whatever for what another reason. And it's like, well, I mean, enough of those. It's like, I'd at least hesitate if it's something where it's not like an immediate danger. I might be like, maybe I'm not going to call the cops. So I'll try to sort this out or call someone else.
Yeah, right. So we learned a lot from the criminologist and about community policing and how important it is. But now I think it's time to bring in someone who has some on-the-ground experience with actually solving homicide cases. So joining us now is Chris McDonough. Would you mind introducing yourself, Chris?
Well, thanks for the invite. My name is Chris McDonough. I'm a retired homicide guy. I'm also a director currently with the Cold Case Foundation, and I still have a job where I work with Indigenous people and I investigate crime still. So I'm kind of a fossil who will not stop working. 42 years in the business.
Wow, 42 years. Well, it's good. It'd be great to talk to you then, since you have so much experience. We've had this kind of question about this stat that we read recently that nearly 50% of murder cases go unsolved today. That is a decrease than the rate was in the 1990s, where it was closer to 65 to 69%. I'm just curious about your on-the-ground experience working on homicide cases, working on solving them the past few decades. Why you think that stat is so high?
It's an interesting question, and it's obviously a disturbing statistic, right? Because every human life counts. It doesn't matter who, what, when, where, or why. I think there are going to be a couple of contributing factors. The first one is we have these new investigators, for lack of a better term, who depend on technology. Okay. So I think there's a shifting in terms of investigators losing the ability to have critical thinking skills because they're not recognizing if Google didn't say it or the lab didn't say it, then how do I say it? How do I get to the answer? Okay. That's very problematic. If you're working South Central Los Angeles and you go into Compton and you don't have the ability to respect people and or have the ability to communicate, they end up putting up barriers, for lack of a better term, even before they get to the scene, because they're thinking one way. Well, if we get forensics evidence, okay, that will solve the crime. And if they forget the fundamental piece of human interaction is to do what we're doing right now. Sitting here, we're going to have a conversation. It may be uncomfortable for either one of us. It doesn't matter. The point being is we have the ability to communicate. Or in my time, we didn't have what was DNA, right? I started in 1982. What was DNA, right? What's that? My generation used to ring doorbells and kiss babies and shake hands and sit with families while they cried and screamed and shouted. And then you always get that one dude on the side that says, "Hey, can I tell you something off the record?" And you say, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" And you listen. And the next thing you know, that takes you to another place.
How would you go about trying to fix this and remedy this so that we could get back to a place where police officers are in these communities and there isn't a lot of animosity between the police departments and their local communities?
I mean, I can tell you a story. I won't drop his street name, but he was a Main Street Crip, okay? This guy's like hardcore, okay? He's out there slinging dope. He's doing the whole game, okay? I stopped him one night, and he had his kid in the back seat of his car. And I looked in the back seat, and I see this 4-year-old kid sitting on the seat. And this is going to answer your question, I hope. And I looked at him, and I said, "Dude, I know you're out here slinging dope. You got to do what you got to do, right? In some communities, you go to do what you have to do to survive." So I said to him, I said, "Okay, where's your dope?" And he kind of messed around a little bit, and he finally shows me his dope. And I said, okay, get out of the car and dump it. He goes, what do you mean? I said, get out of the car and dump your dope and step on it. Crush it. They were all little rocks, right? So he crushes it. I said, okay, you owe me. Now, what I want you to do at 10 o'clock in the morning is you're going to meet me at Kmart. And he goes, why? I said, no, you owe me. He said, okay. Sure enough, 10 a.m. shows up. True story. I walk him into the store. I said, grab a car seat. He goes, what do you mean? I said, pick a car seat. And he gets one. We get the car seat. I take it out to his car. I said, put it in. And I looked at him. I said, you have a chance in life, but that 4-year-old does not until you give it to him. And you driving around slinging dope with a 4-year-old not strapped in the back seat is not a good look. Okay, now 23 years later, my phone rings and I'm like, who is it? He goes, yo, he says, they used to call me McDuff. They could never pronounce my last name. It's McDonough. So on the street, it was always, hey, McDuff, right? I said, dude, how'd you get my number, man? I've been retired and all this other stuff. He's like, there's ways today, McDuff. I said, okay, well, cool. I said, what's up? And he goes, I want to invite you to my son's graduation from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Academy. Wow. I was like blown away. Okay. And then he says, true story, I did it. I said, yeah, you did. You broke it, man. You broke the cycle. So that you can't invent that. Does that make sense? Studies can't make that happen. That trust only comes when you give it. Am I serving somebody or am I just managing a system? And when you figure out it's about not always putting handcuffs on people, it's about hearing their story and saying, okay, I see where you're coming from, dump the dope. And that's old school police work.
After the break, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Devin and Noah present their plans to kill each other to a detective. Before we get back to this week's episode, we got a lot of feedback about last week's episode, answering all of your questions about laundry. Somehow, we didn't answer everything. One listener, Monica, asked about items that are labeled dry clean only. We touched on dry cleaning briefly when it comes to suits, but she wanted to know if we can wash other items with this label on our own. The laundry expert Patrick said, yes, he takes quote, dry clean only to mean essentially wash with caution. For more on this and other questions, including a bit of controversy around the alleged health impacts of fabric softeners, check out this week's edition of our newsletter at nosuchthing.show. Now, back to this week's episode. So, Chris, in order to get a better understanding of this kind of old school police work, I thought it'd be interesting to see it play out in real time. And so what I've done is I've had Noah and Devin come up with plans to off each other, so to speak. And I'd love for you as a former detective to essentially grade them. You might be able to be like, okay, these guys are idiots. They'd get caught in a heartbeat. And so we'll start with Noah.
Okay.
So Noah's going to present his plan, and as he's talking, you feel free to ask him questions about what he would do here and there.
Yeah, feel free to jump in.
Okay, hang on. Let me grab a pen real fast.
Sure. Great.
You need a lot of notes.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready?
Noah,
all right.
hit me.
So, first of all, I'm going to take my time with this thing. I'm not rushing into this.
Okay.
So, first, once I decide I'm going to kill Devin, I'm going to, with cash, buy a laptop. That's going to be my burner laptop. And I'm only going to use it out in, not in my home, not on my Wi-Fi.
Okay,
and I'm going to use
Wi-Fi.
VPNs,
Okay.
and I'm going to use Tor dark web browsing.
Okay.
Got it. So you're going dark.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. So then I was thinking, all right, I was like, what do I know about Devin? I know he loves tea. He drinks tea every day. I think at least 3 cups.
Yeah.
Oh, minimum.
I'm gonna make tea, poison tea. I was on my computer, my burner laptop. I'll be researching what types of flowers are poisonous. There's nightshade. There's lily of the valley for all the Breaking Bad heads out there.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
I was gonna say.
So I'll procure these. At some point, I'm gonna kind of get invited to Devin's apartment, maybe a movie night or something.
Yeah.
One-on-one, hopefully, so there's no one else around.
Oh, okay.
Or, wait till everyone's distracted. You go to the bathroom or something. So I'm thinking I'll throw gloves on real quick while you're in the bathroom. Sneak over, take my poison tea out, put it back in, seal it up nice, hopefully. And then just sit and wait. Because who knows, it might be a while before you even get to my poison tea bags. I'm hoping there's some time passing, so it's not like, oh yeah, no, it was over for movie night, and then the next day, your stomach's exploding. Who knows what's happening? So that's my plan. What are your initial reactions there?
Well, first of all, it's messed up, but
yeah. Listen, I didn't enjoy doing this at all, but I had to. I'm trying to get his stake in the podcast.
Very intricately thought out. Now, the interesting thing about poison is about 90% of women will use poison as a weapon of choice.
Yeah.
10% of men. So you automatically would fit into a rare category of homicide suspects. That's number
Sounds
one.
good. I have a question. Because it's poison, would you then be looking for all the women in Devin's circle first?
Yes and no. And we'd have to see what the environments are for, where Devin was living, etc. Are you married, Devin? Can I, maybe I should ask you.
No, I'm not married.
Okay. Yeah. So he's out there in the world and he's probably got girls around him and that kind of stuff. But that's going to be pretty quick to eliminate that situation because you're in that core, you're in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we want to eliminate that middle first and then work our way out. All the ideas of going ghost on, the digital footprint, et cetera, like that, that's not going to be a real problem. There's some very serious software out there that the feds have. And so we would collect your data, send it back to the FBI, and see if they can rediscover some of those sites that you visited.
Quick question. So does going on those kind of VPNs or Tor browsers doesn't necessarily protect you from police activity?
Now, there are ways of making it all go away, of course, but that's really, you've got to hammer the hard drive or you've got to bleach it and all this other stuff, right? But the fact that he chose poisoning, gives me the advantage. So it's very rare for a guy to poison one of his friends. So immediately I would want to know what your orientation is in terms of if there's an attraction and that went sideways, not throwing my man Devin under the bus for a second, but let's say the autopsy report comes back and says, hey, this is a poisoning. So what I would do is I would interview all of Devin's circle of influence, the folks around him. And there's what they call a victim risk continuum. It would say environment, situation, circumstance, low, medium, or high. So the question is, what's the environment? Well, that's where Devin was found. If it's his apartment, is that a low, medium, or high risk environment? What do you guys think?
In your apartment would be a low risk, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it was like down, at Times Square at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? That shifts a lot of things.
Happening.
Right. And so what's the situation, right? You'll go, oh, he's hanging out with friends, kicking it here, watching TV, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a low, high, or medium risk activity, right? Again, it goes to that low side. Okay. So everything in this murder that Noah has planned here tells us it hits on the low side of the victim risk continuum. So statistically, the lower it shows up, the higher probability he was a selected target.
Wow.
So my first question to Noah would have been, Noah, do you know why we're here today?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, no worries, man. Hey, so tell me a little bit about your life.
Oh, I'm a podcaster. I do a show with two living friends of mine, Devin and Manny. I see them once a week usually in the studio when we're recording, and that's about it though.
Okay.
Have a wife.
Cool. Where'd you grow up?
Connecticut.
What I'm doing is I'm asking him questions that I already know I'm going to get the answers to. Do you know why? We live 3 lives. It's our public life, our private life, and our secret life.
Okay. I like that.
Our secret life is where murder, sin, all this other stuff takes place. Okay. So my line of questioning for the very first question to him was, you know why you're here? To see how he's going to answer, and what he did is he answered me in what persona? Public persona.
Yeah, of course.
I already knew that. Okay. So I threw him a bait question to see if he was going to say, does this have anything to do with Devin or anything like that? Well, so the answer is no. Okay. So he didn't even take me to his private life. His private life is where Devin and he are buds. And so what he's doing is he's projecting this persona that he wants me to hear.
This is incredible.
What I would do is I would take him down this road of no problem, let's stay there. Okay. And then when they start lying, okay, they're covering their secret life. And it becomes very difficult to do that because you can't always remember your lies. Okay.
Right.
And so eventually we would circle back to, well, tell me a little bit about Devin and his life. That's what they call victimology. And we would dive into Devin from what Noah may know about Devin. Maybe at that point we'll say, you want a bag of chips, you want a Coke, you want a cheeseburger, let's take a break,
Sounds good.
And you know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
And I would ask you to take a sip out of your coffee cup there. Okay. And then I would say, let me go get you a Coke. Or let me go fill up your cup or something. Take your cup and go out and hit it with a buccal swab to get your DNA.
Yeah, I'd fall for that.
And then,
Coca-Cola.
You know what I mean? And and then come back in and hand you your cup back and say, all good, bro. Well, let's keep going. We keep talking.
So I'm curious, that's perfectly legal to do, to just get a swab of someone's personal items in the interrogation room?
Yeah, if for an example, those were our coffee cups, right? Let's say we walk in and say, you want something to drink? Say, absolutely. And you hand them a coffee cup.
Yeah.
And if he hits it, okay, it's mine.
Yeah. So basically with Noah's plan here, just to kind of circle back, it sounds like low success rate plan. And to be fair to Noah, he did say before we started here that he didn't think he would be able to get away with this.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I've been scared straight.
You gotta keep an eye out on my tea now.
Yeah.
That was super fascinating. I learned a lot in just that small amount of time. So now let's go over to Devin's plan to do the same thing to Noah and see what you might be able to glean from this.
My plan is a little bit more straightforward than Noah's. We're going to have a boys' weekend upstate.
Okay.
And we're going to invite Max too,
Okay. There's 4 of us.
4 of us, strategically, because I need Manny and Max to drive up together. And Noah, I'm going to pick you up.
Okay.
I'm going to pick up Noah. We're going to have a great weekend planned. We're going to stay for 2 or 3 days. And I'm going to have an event planned on the last day. So we're going to be driving back when it's dark.
Okay.
I'm going to purposely leave something in my back seat. So Manny and Max are going to be driving back together.
Yeah.
Me and Noah are going to be driving back together.
In a different car.
It's upstate. The roads are pretty dark. At one point, I'm going to say, hey, Noah, you mind reaching in the back and grabbing me, let's say, get my bag for me. I have something in my bag, some gum or something I want. As Noah takes off his seatbelt to go in the back, I'm going to crash the car.
Wow. That's a bold one.
I'm gonna have my seatbelt on. I'm gonna try to crash it in a way that I'm gonna try to hit Noah head on his side. He is now not buckled into his seat at all.
Wow.
And I'm gonna go for it. Hey, if I'm gonna murder someone, I've got to take a little bit of a risk. I'm gonna end up a little bit hurt, but I think
that's
that
really
helps.
nice of you.
I think that helps with my alibi of like, why would I purposely crash my car? You know, that's
You have to
crazy.
be a really bad guy.
Yeah. So yeah, my plan is to get into a car crash at a strategic time where Noah is not buckled in, and crash into a tree on his side of the car.
What? All right. Say I'm injured but not fully there. Would you then like give me a little bludgeon to finish the job? Like, what if I'm still alive?
If you're still alive, I'm
like, Devin. Or would you just be like, horrible accident?
I'm gonna wait to call the if you're still alive after and you're laying on the ground, say you're outside of the car.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wait it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how long can I go. An hour, 2 hours later, he's still there.
Wow.
Then maybe I got to do something.
Get
else.
a rock.
This kind of happened in Sopranos where they got in a car accident. I don't want to spoil it. I mean, it's a huge spoiler. I'll say two characters get in a car accident, and one of them then just plugs the other one's nose until he, because then it's kind of hard to tell. But Chris, for the sake of simplicity,
let's say I die.
Let's say that Noah is killed in the car crash. Yeah. He's not crawling out of there. That's really interesting, Devin.
That's a pretty good one.
Let's hear from Chris.
That is a good one, and it's just as scandalous as Noah. Okay, so the first things then, obviously, when the cops or the ambulances or anybody gets on the scene, are you going to be there at that time, Devin? I mean, potentially unconscious.
Yes, I'm there. I'm hurt. Maybe even I'm calling the police.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
You got in an accident.
Maybe I'm rehearsing my voice that I'm going to use when I call.
That would be tough.
You know?
Because they always play those calls back.
They do.
Okay, so whatever story you're going to tell initially is going to be the story we're going to lock you into, right?
Yes.
So the very first words out of your mouth and that, by the way, happens when you call 911, okay? It doesn't happen when the cops get there. So the first thing I would want to do is go listen to the 911 tape and hear.
Even before you talk to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I want to hear.
time.
I want to hear what you said about the car accident and what happened. Now I'm not going to tell you that because I'm going to own that. Okay, I'm going to own that in my own secret life. Okay, does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tuck that. I'm going to tuck that away. Okay, and so then at some point, if you're okay health-wise, right, you're not hurt in the injury, but Noah's messed up over there with no seatbelt because he's been launched out into a tree somewhere, off to the side of the road. The first thing I would do is try to get you back at the station. I want to hear what you have to say about how this whole thing went down. You know what mistake you made, though?
Oh.
So far, what mistake have I made? No, I don't.
You called 911.
Oh. I shouldn't call 911?
No, I've got all that phone data with your location.
Oh.
Wait.
I can get a search warrant and pull all of your phone data on when you were making phone calls and to who. Okay. And so what I would do is lock you into a story for the very first night. I would say to you, hey, Devin, after we got to know each other, right, and all this other stuff, I would say, hey, dude, thank you so much for coming down tonight. I'm so sorry that your friend Noah passed away. I mean, I can imagine how you're feeling. How do you feel?
I just feel like it's all my fault. Obviously I was the one driving. I feel horrible. I don't know how I'm going to face, his dog, his wife, now that I've done this horrible, horrible thing because I just was not paying attention while I was driving.
Yeah, that's messed up, my friend. I totally understand. Just out of curiosity, where are you going to be for the next 2 weeks?
I'm going to be home. I don't know if I can work. We're not recording a podcast this week.
Yeah.
I got to get a guest host.
He's gonna go home. Little does he know, Noah has already poisoned the tea.
I know.
in his apartment.
You'd have a big glass of
exactly.
tea.
Exactly, man. What I've just done by asking him that question, just out of curiosity, what are you going to do for the next 2 weeks? I have triggered a stress mechanism internally for him. Okay. So now what I've done is I've put him back on his heels because I'm going to say, Devin, thank you so much for coming down here tonight. We really appreciate it. I'll tell you what, if there's anything else that you can remember or think of, or something I didn't ask you, okay, would you do me a favor and reach back out to me? Is that okay, Devin? Would you do that?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Okay. No problem, bro. As you can tell, we're going to do a lot of investigation on this thing, and I'll be in contact with you. But thank you so much. Have a good night. Now, what I've done is I've kicked him out of the door and bought rent space in his head.
Boom.
Okay. Because now you're going to go home thinking what, Devin?
Why do they want to talk to me? It's a simple car crash.
Yeah, this happens every day.
You know, like, what are you investigating? What are you looking into? They must be on to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's got to be thinking, oh crap, what did I miss? You know, what should I have done differently? So with me leaving that planted in Devin's mind, the bigger question for him is, what are they doing for the next couple of weeks?
Let's say both of these are probably low success rates in terms of getting away with it. Was there one plan that was better than the other plan that was more feasible?
Yeah, who's more likely to get away with murder?
With these plans?
I think the car plan would be a lot tougher to prove.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Noah choosing poison, that was his mistake. Okay, because that puts him in a whole different category. And all we would have to do is connect your relationship between Noah and Devin. And, you know, and that relationship would come from Devin's family. I would really spend a lot of time with your family, man, and say, hey, you know, what's his relationship with Noah or with this person or that person? And then it would be a matter of, you know, just taking your time and interviewing people. And then at some point you realize, you know what, we used to call it DLR. Okay. Don't look right or doesn't sound right. Okay? Because we all wear this mask of this secret life. And so Noah's mask would fall pretty quickly.
This has been so
fun.
fascinating and so fun to listen to. Before we let you go, just to circle back to that stat where there's like nearly half of these murder cases are going unsolved. I'm curious, in your personal work, before you retired, after you retired, what would you say the percentage of the murder cases you've worked on were cleared?
God blessed me in my career. I had a 90% solvability
Oh
rate.
my
Wow. He's like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Well,
Homicide detectives.
I know enough to get in trouble. How about that? And now it didn't mean I could put the bracelets on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
But what it did mean is I knew that you knew. There will be a destiny at some point. So I was lucky, but I came from a group of people, my mentors were really good investigators. They did what we're doing right now. I mean, look what I've learned here already just about you guys. That's what's important, and that's what will solve more of these homicide cases. And you guys are doing good work here by allowing old knuckleheads like me to talk about it. So.
All right, that was an incredible conversation. I mean, I feel like we just learned so much about police work. Probably not surprising that your plans were, you know, had a low success rate. I guess, like, it's not impossible that you couldn't get away with it. His determination was that, like, I'm pretty sure I'd get you guys.
Yeah, well, he said to be fair, I would be more likely to get away with it.
That's true. Devin had
Yeah.
Devin
I'm not
had a
arguing
plan
that.
that was a little bit
See,
more
my plan,
tough.
I'm
But you have to be
going-
you have to be a really good actor for yours.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I have
true.
a
I
little
do
more
have to
time
put
on
it on
mine.
a
That was my focus.
yeah.
Or I need to crash good enough so I can't call anybody.
Oh yeah, just someone on the road has to find you.
But the
Yeah.
thing too is like we're forgetting like it is about getting away with it. You might be the number one suspect as long
Well,
as they
yeah.
don't have enough
If you can get
evidence.
rid
See,
on
that
it.
was my thing. I was like, hey, you're
Yeah.
gonna. I did drive the car. You
Yeah.
know it's me. You're not looking for anybody.
You're the guy,
Now
yeah.
you got to prove that I did this on
On
purpose.
purpose.
Why would I crash my car on purpose?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe because of
insane.
our love affair
Yeah, exactly.
that I'm trying to end.
Don't tell your wife.
What I've learned from this episode is you probably could get away with murder unless the detective was someone like Chris from this old school way of policing where they really get into the community and
Yeah, we should get a current day homicide detective in here.
He'd be
They
like,
can be
I
like
would
head-to-head.
type into ChatGPT. Did this
All right,
guy do it on purpose?
all right, Grok clears you. You're good. Have a nice day, sir.
Croc, is this true? No Such Thing is a production of Kaleidoscope Content. Our executive producers are Kate Osborne and Mangesh Hachikadur. The show was created by Manny Fidel, Noah Friedman, and Devin Joseph. The theme and credit song was produced by me, Manny. The show is mixed by Steve Bone. Special thanks to our guests this week, Dr. Brian Forst from the American University and Detective Chris McDonough, aka McDuff. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such an incredible conversation. For more information about this episode, visit nosuchthing.show and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you have feedback or a question to ask, our email is mannynoahdevin@gmail.com. If you're in the US, you can also leave us a voicemail by calling the number in the show notes. We'll be back with a new episode next week.
No such thing.